Okay, I'm going to be going over the deadlift, and everything that I'm going to go over can also be applied to the RDL, Romanian deadlift, or even a more stiff-legged deadlift. But basically, the goal here is to show you how not only you can do this without experiencing any lower back pain or sciatic pain, but I'm also be going over all the tips and tricks and things that help me, because when I first started doing deadlifts, I myself, it always felt like everything that I was doing with the deadlift just indirectly worked only my lower back. That's how it always felt. And then not only that, when I twisted my knee from skiing, now if I don't properly set up and do everything in the right order and make sure that I'm fully set right, if I go to pull it and I stand tall, I'll get a pinch right down, right here in my sciatica that shoots all the way down my leg. And it's just pure pain, and it sucks. So, I'm going to show you how to do this all properly, because it's a very great movement. I do love it. But yes, if you don't do it right, it can usually lead to a lot of pain, which is the main reason why when I was first learning how to do it and I was starting to get all this pain that was happening and it felt like it was just lower back and it really sucked, I took quite a 6 months off of doing it, and I've brought it back since, and I've also achieved new PRs with it, because I do love the movement. It is fun to just see what your overall strength level is. But besides that, it is the only hip hinging kind of movement, which is a foundational movement in terms of what you do for the body. There's a few of them. There's push pull, squat, and then the hinge. So it's definitely one to know how to do properly, because again, it is a major foundational movement for the hips, for the glutes, for the hamstrings, for the back, for the upper back, basically the whole posterior chain. So it's a good thing to learn how to do it properly. All right. So before I show you all the tips and tricks and all the fun little nuanced stuff that you'll put together to make sure you have the right form down, there needs to be a way that we can test the movement, see where it's hurting for you, do the tips and tricks, and then retest the movement to see if there is significant changes or improvements. And if not, where do we need to go back within the line to make those changes to make it improve for you. So to start off, I'm going to show you one really simple trick, and I'm even going to use it as a form of a warm-up to then add more weight to it. And ideally, I'm going to show you the trick, the test that I use not only to warm up, but also to make sure everything's set up right, everything feels good as far as my body goes. And I'm also going to show you it with a decent amount of weight on here, because usually we can get by with, some lighter weight, pulling it, whatever. It's once we start to get into our working weight, that's when we really start to experience it. And I've seen people that, have been lifting for years, but they go to lift their working weight, and then they're like, I got to set it down. My back's killing me. So I'm going to warm up, show you the test in between the warm up. I'm going to put on about 275 pounds, just so you can see that the limiting factor when I do this test is not going to be my lower back, and that I'm not going to be experiencing any pain down my leg or anything of that sort. So to get set up here, this test's very simple, very straightforward. All that I'm going to do is I'm going to lift the weight, and I'm going to pause right below my knees. I'm going to hold it there for about 5 to 10 seconds. Then I'm going to stand tall, and then I'm going to lower down right back to that same point, hold for another 5 to 10 seconds, and then relax. All right. The test itself is not so much the movement, but more about when we're in this position right here. This is usually when people will experience the most amount of pain in certain areas or feel the most amount of tension in the lower back, because they can either be being too far forward, or they feel it all in their quads because they're sitting back like this. Ideally, we want to be in this hinged position, and what we want to feel for is when we're holding it for that long, the limiting factor should be your glutes and maybe a little bit of your upper back. And if you're not using straps, then probably your grip. But the biggest thing is making sure it's all of your body supporting itself and not just directly one area being overly fatigued. So if you're holding this in this position and you feel like your lower back's about to give out, then yes, we need to look at your form and go over the extra tips and tricks that I'll show you to help you out with improving your form. But I'm gonna show you it real quick what the test looks like. So I'm gonna set up like I do. I'm gonna squeeze up, hold 5 to 10 seconds, up to you. Stand tall, lower back down to the same position, and hold again. Boom, that's all it is. Ideally, you should be able to hold this position, I mean, even for 10 to 20 seconds, and not feel like your lower back is the main holder or prime mover of this movement. If you watch and you notice carefully, you'll actually see my legs are shaking because all the weight's in my glutes. And my glutes are holding me up, holding the weight, supporting me, and then boom. So if I were to hold this long enough, eventually my glutes are just gonna get so tired that they'll just give. But it proves that when I'm doing the movement, it's not my lower back that's reaching a level of fatigue that it just All right, so I'm gonna load up more weight and do the test again, and I'll show you how it looks. Okay, so I'm gonna do the test again. Again, I'm gonna pull up just below my knees, hold it 5 to 10 seconds, stand fully tall, lower down, do it again. The reason why I like to do it first from the bottom here, come all the way up, and then come back down and do it again is because throughout training many different clients, I've seen a few things. Some people, they'll have a poor press out in terms of like coming up. They'll be too bent like this, and then it's all lower back already. And if they were to hold it like that, that lower back's gonna give out right away. And then for others, they're able to get down enough, push all the way out, but when it's coming back down, that's when, again, they start to create some poor movement where it's the lower back that starts to kick in. Even if it looks quality, sometimes for some, even myself, I'll show you one of my past deadlifts. If you look at it, you'll probably say, oh, you know, the form doesn't look bad, but in the movement, during it, when I was doing it, all I felt was my lower back. My lower back felt like it was on fire after doing that. So I like to see how your form is and making sure that you have the right setup, not only from coming up, but also from lowering down. And this is how you can really tell if you're engaging the right muscles. All right, so again, we have 185 now, so a little heavier. Again, I'm just gonna do same thing. I'm only gonna do 1 rep. Just like that. All right, I'm gonna load up 275. I'm gonna do the same thing. And again, the goal is to make sure that I am dialed in enough that my lower back, again, is not the main mover. It's my glutes, it's my upper back, it's my lats, everything else that should be working. Okay. So as you see now, we have 275 on the bar. The reason why I'm showing the same test and movement with this weight, this is closer to my actual working set weights. Usually it's during the sets and reps that we're actually trying to progress on that I see people experience the most amount of pain. So if you can warm up to your weight that you'll use for your sets, be able to pull it up, hold 5 to 10 seconds here, come all the way tall, and then again come down, hold for another 5 to 10 seconds here, and be able to set it down and feel that through that whole rep, your lower back didn't give you any problems, any issues, then you are now in a prime setup as far as having the right muscles engage during your deadlifts. And you should even see your deadlift strength significantly shoot up because you're actually recruiting more muscles to pull the weight. Now there's a lot more nuanced stuff that we can definitely go over when it comes to deadlift form, but the biggest things that I see people struggle with is connecting to the glutes mostly, and making sure that they're the prime mover when supporting the weight up and coming back down. And this is going to be the biggest one that I'll show you, because usually if you don't engage the glutes well enough, that's what leads to a lot of lower back engagement and a lot of sciatic pain, or at least those are some of the things that I experienced when I wasn't doing this properly. So again, this is a good test to make sure you have the right form for your deadlift and you are connecting to the right muscles. So again, I'm going to show you with 275, my more ideal working weight. Woo! Just like that, no pain. I feel great. All right, I'm gonna show you the exact tips and tricks that help me do that. So let's go over the 3 tricks that I'll show you that help you with deadlifts, making sure that you have no pain when you do them. Okay. The first move that I'm gonna show you is actually something that I learned from Squat University. If you have no idea who they are, definitely go check them out. The biggest things when it comes to deadlift is learning how to properly hinge, because it's not about just leaning forward and just bending down, hanging down like this. There is a proper way, like in a lot of warehouses they say, hey, make sure to lift the boxes with your legs. It's the kind of same idea, you know, you don't want to just bend over, grab the box and come straight up. That's all your lower back right there. So to make sure that we know how to properly engage our glutes and our hips and have them be the prime lifter when we're deadlifting, we're going to do something called a touchdown squat. Now, the surface that I'm using, I raised it up a little bit just so you can see dramatic wise, but technically I could move that one off and literally start with this small of a step. But just so you can really see it, we're going to start up here. And what you're going to do is you're going to start with just one leg on the surface. Now, when you do this, again, it's not about just rounding forward and bending forward. What you're going to do, you push your hips back. It's almost like being karate chopped right in half, you know, slow motion. Ooh. All right. So we're being chopped in half. We're pushing back. You can even karate chop yourself in half until you feel a stretch or you feel a contraction in your butt. From there, you're going to hold that position. Let the other leg hover. Now you're going to slowly lower down until you tap the heel. Again, not stomping on the ground. Gently tap the heel and then push tall. Just like that. So again, pushing the butt back until you feel a strong stretch or contraction on the leg that's on the platform. But again, until you feel a strong contraction in the butt, making sure this leg's out to the side. Simply lower down, slow and control. Tap the heel, push back tall. All right? I want you to do about 1 to 2 sets of 15 reps for both legs. So again, we'll switch legs. Push back. You feel the contraction or the stretch in the butt. Let the other leg hang out to the side. Make sure you have your balance set. Gently lower, tap, push back tall. Now, one little extra thing to add to this is when you do the movement, your knees, you don't want them to collapse in like this. All right? We want them to stay in line with our foot the whole time. Okay? So that's one thing just to be mindful of. And that also means that you're probably not pushing back far enough. And if you're really still struggling, you're coming in like that, then this is a good move to practice repeatedly. And you can even use your hand to kind of push you out to start with and just slowly build strength up in that area. But if everything feels good and you have strong control, you're hinging back, you feel your glutes working, tap, push tall, then perfect. Do that a few times, get used to it, and then I'll show you how to carry it over into the deadlift. But for now, I'm going to show you the next little trick to start with. Okay. The next little trick that I'm going to show you is going to help with making sure to reinforce the idea of hinging back and feeling the glutes work and have them be, again, the prime supporter of the deadlift itself. All right, so try and find, like if you're at a gym, you got access to a plate. If you're at home, try and find like a cutting board or something that's sturdy but wide enough that we can hold it here just like this. Okay, you don't want something that's flexible. We want to have something that's fairly solid, because what we're going to do is, again, start nice and tall. You're going to take your object or plate, place it right at your butt. All right. From here, we're going to take the same movement that we did with the touchdown squats. So again, where we hinge back and lower down, tap the ground, push up. We're going to take that same beginning pattern movement and use it here. So we're going to take the plate, and we're going to pull hard up against the butt. Because what you're going to do now is you're going to forcefully push your butt back into the plate. Again, pulling against it as hard as you can and pushing back as hard as you can. And you should feel your glutes really working hard to try and break this plate or object in half. Okay? So again, nice and tall. As you start to push back, your arms are going to pull against, thus creating a lot of pressure here against the plate, almost like you're trying to break it in half. It's that same idea. You're just going to push into it as hard as you can, keep pushing back, keep pulling. You should see the plate starting to bend a little. You push, and pull. You keep going, and then relax and come tall. Okay? So, again, for this, 1 to 2 sets, 15 reps, taking your time with it, starting tall, pushing back into it. Slowly start to pull more, push more, creating opposing forces as hard as you can, pushing back almost to where you're gonna fall back, but we don't want to fully fall back. We wanna make sure our feet are locked on the ground, but it's that same idea of we're pushing straight back as hard as we can, trying to snap the plate in half, okay? Now, for some of you, if you're doing that, and that's creating pain in the lower back, this next move I'll show you is gonna help with that, and then we're gonna tie it all together. Okay, we've gone over two hinging movements, two movements that are meant to help you properly break at the hips, which helps make sure that you are engaging your glutes and doing the movement in a proper hinge fashion and not a squat or just a broken bent over. A proper hinge, which also carries over to like bent over rows. So learning that hinge is very key, but the next biggest thing that creates a lot of back pain even when we have the right hinge movement, as again, I'll put up my clip where I'm deadlifting. In this clip, you know, it still looks like I have solid form, but again, I'm still feeling it somewhat in my lower back. Again, part of that was not fully hinging rightly and engaging my glutes as best as I can. But the second part of that too is actually not bracing properly. So if you don't have a strong brace in terms of your core strength, then yes, you're still gonna feel it quite a bit in the lower back, because instead of like, say right here between the wrist, let's say that's my spine directly. If I'm not braced right and I go to pull a bunch of weight, as soon as I start to pull up, my spine's gonna pull like that and then start to pull up, right? We wanna make sure that doesn't happen. And the way we do that is, this is our core, which surrounds the entirety of our spine. And again, as I pull that weight up, instead of having my spine just snap in half like that and come up, instead it's my core catching it, keeping it stable and strong and still. Now, how do we properly brace? Because it's not about just deep breath in and push the stomach out. That's not proper bracing. Your core, usually when people think of core, they tend to think of just this front section here where you see the abs, when technically your core spans 360, the entirety of your body, because it's meant to brace and cover and protect the entirety of your spine. So one trick that you can use to help make sure that you are bracing properly is what's called, I guess, the sandwich drill or method, whatever. Basically something I learned from several other very intelligent people. I'll try and put the links for everybody that I've learned from all down in the description, so you can also go through their content and learn this as well from them, as they'll probably be able to express it better than I can. But that being said, I'm going to show you the method that I learned from them that I'll teach to you in terms of how to properly brace. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your hands just like this. You're going to place them at your waist, kind of mid-waist level, right here. And you want to make sure that this part of your hand is along the front, and then your thumb is set to the back. Because again, when you brace, it's not just about pushing the stomach outward and forward. It's about expanding the entirety of your core. So that includes connecting to the back as well. So what again, what we're gonna do, hands, waist, you're going to squeeze in as hard as you can. From the front and back, you're going to squeeze in as hard as you can. All right. Now from here, we are going to take that big breath in, but what you want to focus on is once you squeeze in, big breath in, push the hands away from the body. So ready? Big breath in, expand the hands. Ready? Squeeze in, expand the hands. All right. So again, we're going to take our hands, place them at the waist, and squeeze in as hard as you can, and then take a big breath in and push the hands away, right? Push the hands away. And if you can see too, not only am I pushing just my hands away, but I'm also going to be pushing my thumb away as well. Again, bracing the back. So squeezed in, push away. Squeezed in, push away. So again, a proper brace isn't just pushing directly out in front with here. It's a 360 degree setup, all right? And then once you have that, combined with the proper hinge, all those combined together will help you with your deadlift. Okay, so we're gonna take everything that I just showed you, combine it all together, and apply it to the deadlift itself. Or even if you're doing just an RDL, or even if you're getting set up to do a bent over row, all these apply. Now, I showed you a lot about the hinge, I showed you about the core. There is one more thing that you can try if you're really struggling to connect to the glutes, and that's just taking one of those booty bands and placing it at the knees, because sometimes too, the way you can tell that you have your glutes fully engaged is that your knee, when you squeeze your glute hard enough, your knee is going to push open, which I'll show you. So if you watch, if I squeeze my glute hard enough, this knee right here is going to slightly rotate out. So ready? So again, if I relax, if I squeeze my glutes hard enough, it's very subtle, but you'll see just right here, squeeze, it rotates out, relaxed. Squeeze, it rotates out, relax. Now it's not about taking my foot and turning it like this. I still want my foot to be planted on the ground, but you will feel a slight rotation because that is now your glute connecting through to the knee and opening up the hips, which is what we want. So again, if you're having trouble fully connecting to the glutes and opening up the hips, then what you can try is putting on a booty band, because what it's going to do is it's meant to try and pull the knees in, and you have to resist the band by pushing out, which means you have to squeeze your butt really hard to make sure that the knees are opening up. Now again, we don't want the foot to roll over. You want to keep it locked into the ground, but still squeeze, and you'll slightly feel pressure on the outsides of your foot, which is okay. But again, making sure when we do the deadlift, we're not only just hinging, but we're also making space through the hips, because that means all the pressure now, all the muscle that's working is the glutes and not the lower back. Trust me, I know this can be a lot of stuff to kind of mentally put all together, and I didn't even get this right away. Again, I've been lifting for quite a few years, but it wasn't until the last 1 to 2 years that I actually really understood and started to connect to my glutes, to my core, to my lats and everything, to make sure that when I do this movement, it's not actually my lower back that's pulling all the weight. That's all the supporting muscles that should be the prime movers of this movement, right? So don't beat yourself up if you're not fully getting it down right away. Again, use these tips to kind of help you progress down that path, to at least put you in a better position to where your mind can slowly start to build those connections and improve your movement overall. So this is why it's really good to make sure to go through this video a few times, really let it start to sink in and start to click, and practice each of the movements so you can slowly start to understand proper bracing, proper hinging, proper glute engagement, and so forth. All right, now I'm gonna show you real quick how to combine all that together to retest, because again, if we're going through the deadlift, maybe you feel good for that pull, but it doesn't mean you had the right movements. That's why it's good to test, do the tips, tricks, whatever, the things that's meant to make you better, and then reassess to see if it actually helped. And then to rinse and repeat to see if there is improvements. And if there's not, then there's other avenues that we need to look at. All right. But again, I'm going to do the full test. So again, pull, hold 5 to 10 seconds, stand all the way tall, go back down, hold 5 to 10 seconds, relax. All right. And when we do this, we're going to think about all the little tricks that we just did and how it combines into this. All right. So when I'm setting up with deadlift, if you don't know by now, you always want the bar right against the shins. We want to keep the weight close to the body. The further away it is, the greater the demand on the lower back. Doesn't matter how good your form is. If that weight's too far away, it's all lower back, and it's a disadvantage for the body. That's why they say get close, use your legs, pick it up, okay? But let's go through everything. So getting the right setup. Again, if we think about the plate, we're pushing back into the plate, pulling hard against, and then right here, I should be close enough to touch the bar, but not fully enough to grab it just yet. From here now, we can start to bend the knees until I'm low enough to grab. And boom, you should be in a proper deadlift position to start pulling. All right, so again, think about the plate, and you can even put your hands here on your butt and just slowly push against the hands, let the hands slide along the legs, and then now we should be close enough to reach, but we can't keep pushing back because we're just gonna fall. So again, we've pushed as far back as we can. So now we'll bend the knees until my hands can fully wrap around the bar. From here, I'm going to brace myself before I pick the weight up, because again, I don't want my spine to be all loose. I want it to be locked in, right? So again, if you need to at the top, think about it. Push the hands in, big breath, push the core out, all right? You want to make sure that you're braced at the bottom before you even pull that weight up, okay? So again, let me catch my breath, all this talking. Hinge, lower down a bit, big brace, push through the legs, hold, squeeze the butt, stand tall. Again, push back, just like the touchdown squat, brace, lower down, relax. It's a little tricky to do all that and explain it while doing it, but again, push back, bend the knees till you can grab the weight, make sure to brace, squeeze the butt, push through the legs, pull up, hold, squeeze the butt even more, stand all the way tall. And then to make sure that we hinge properly, when we lower the weight, we're gonna think about when we did the single leg squat. And what we're gonna do is make sure we push back again, feel the stretch or the contraction in the glutes. Again, making sure we're braced. And then the idea of the plate pushing back even harder and lowering down, and boom, there's a full rep. I am out of breath trying to explain all this and do it at the same time. But again, all those keys are meant to help you slowly build the full connection to doing a full proper deadlift, and making sure that what is working is the lats, which I'll show you real quick. It's just simply thinking about squeezing the bar around the legs, because again, we want to keep it close to the body. So again, you're just going to squeeze the bar. That's going to lock in the lats, which means now Your upper back is a supporter in the movement, not the lower back. And then again, making sure we're hinging, opening the hips by squeezing the glutes. So now the glutes are the prime mover of supporting the weight. And then making sure we have strong brace to help support the spine so it doesn't snap and bend. And squeezing it all together for one solid movement. Now again, I know this can be a lot to fully connect mentally, especially if you're new to this. But again, take your time with it. Start lighter weight. Practice the test movement itself. Again, you want to make sure it's the glutes that are getting tired, so you'll feel your legs shaking, trembling, and it's not your lower back. That's how you know you are on the right track, the right path. So again, take your time with it. Practice it. Practice all the little movements. Practice definitely bracing. That's going to be the biggest one across everything you do. And just take your time to work it in all together. If you have any more questions, anything you want me to cover, make sure to leave a comment below. If you're interested in learning how I went about losing 50 pounds, I'll also leave that in the description below. And yeah, I'll catch you guys around.